All right, everyone, let's go ahead now. We're going to draw ourselves a little fish on learning to see objects. So we're going to start off with this little fish here with looking at the basic shape. If we think about the shape of it, it basically looks like a football, doesn't it? A basic part of the body. So we're going to go ahead and draw that sort of shape out here and draw that, right? And if we were to think about the overall shape of the body here, it kind of goes up and around. It kind of finishes out with that tail kind of coming up this way, doesn't it? Yeah, we sort of think about that length of the scale. So let's go back in here now. And we'll look at some of the other shapes that are on here. Certainly, we have this sort of nice, sort of again, sort of football shape for our fish. But really now we're looking, it actually kind of looks like a leaf right now, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and push on there. Let's go ahead and add some of the shapes here. Now we know that right here in the middle of the torso here at the top, we've got this great fin shape coming up. So we're kind of like this, right? And then we sort of come down, right? It kind of comes down around. It comes down toward the torso a little bit. So we have that one. Then we have these little fins here at the bottom here coming out. So we have this one that's in front right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do is bring this one right out. So let's sort of our first one here, get that basic shape going. There we go. There's one. I have one in front of that, so it comes out. There's another shape on this one. And the one behind it there kind of comes out like this, kind of fans up, and then it goes back in. So we sort of have those three that we can see there pretty dominantly. When we get to the tail here, we have this larger sort of fan shape. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of open that up a little bit here, bring that down. And one of the nice things you notice that this bottom fin right here just is a tiny bit lower than this one. Remember looking at those sort of relative heights on objects. So we kind of go back in like this, right? And we sort of bring that in. And then we bring that back up to here. And let's go ahead and bring this back up here. Let's pull this tail out. There we go. So we have this, look at that, how those come together right there like that. Now, let's go ahead here, pop in that eye. Now that eye happens to be right about here, doesn't it? It's not back here by the fins, it's actually in front of the fins. Sort of halfway between the fin and the front of the head here. So we'll put that eye in there. There we are. Now we kind of shape that body. Notice that body is a little bump and another bump here. So we're going to put that rise up right there, got a little bit of a crest there. It'll come up around there. So we've got the basic shape here. So let's go ahead and see about kind of how we can finish that together. So you notice this time on this drawing, I've kind of blended those shapes together, looking at that the triangle. I mean, excuse me, the football shape and the triangle, a couple of triangles down below here, and that circle around that eye. Now we certainly have some fins here and here. I mean the gills. Excuse me. Got the gill line here, and with the second one that comes in right underneath there like this. There we go, sort of imply that. And this great little fish, the mouth here, it sort of comes up and over. So I'm just gonna bring that down like so. So we have that torso and we have this coming down in here. So it's looking pretty good. So I can go ahead, do a little hash mark here, kind of extend it out. When I do that, it gives a little bit more of a flourish to those lines. So that extends those lines out. I sort of think about how am I going to do that, right? Bring that out, kind of bring those over, and it just sort of extends them out and gives them a little bit more character. There we go. Now for clarity, I'm going to go back in and erase a couple of the lines here. Let's go bring that setup line here. Let's bring the line back over here. Let's pull this out right here with the gills and clean that up inside of some of the fins there. There we go. So we're dealing with here a little more clarity here. We can see our fish a little better. There's going to be something else I'm going to add here is maybe just a couple, like the idea that there's a couple of gills here, just a couple, just to sort of, I say gills, a couple of bits of scales here. I don't want to give too much, just enough to give the idea that these things are here. Certainly I have these lines that go in the fins. You see these lines that are happening inside here? We have lines back inside there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in. Let me clean up this one right here. Is I'll kind of come back in and just kind of go in like so. And notice I'm following the curve of those lines there. So you don't have to count it. You don't have to do every single one of these little lines. But what you're doing is you're just alluding to them. You're trying to giving the idea, that sense that they're there, certainly. And that'll be something that we'll put in when we're doing our inking. Okay. And we'll come here. There we go. It goes in there. So there we have our little fish guy here. He's looking pretty good. We have one more little bit of fin back on this side here. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit. sort of fill in that space there. So let's go ahead and bring that up. And then we kind of bring that over. And this little bit of here just kind of comes down and back up. Just like that, it kind of overlaps a little bit right there. Okay, so we have basically our fish here all set up. So I'm going to go back in and do the inking. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and get out my flexible nib brush pen and do a little bit of inking on here. Now, again, I'm going to start off with, as I've talked about before, the underside of the object with a little bit heavier lines or overlapping spaces, but the top part of the fish, I'm going to go in a little lighter. So let's go ahead here. Remember, we talked about in terms of pushing and pulling your line, wherever you feel more comfortable with, right? So go ahead and do small little lines here. And let's look at the mouth. And go ahead here. Stop there. Now I've got this little bit of thin out, swoop around, nice little lines. Just 1, 2, you don't need a lot of them, right? Again, you're just trying to mimic and get a feeling for the object itself, right? So darken the eye in. Right? And I'm going to go a little heavier on the bottom here like this. And heavier up, thin, thick, and then up, and then thin, heavy, heavy to thin, down, and up. Up and up. There we go. A few little bit there. Now let's go to the underside of the body here. So I work my way across that surface and go back into kind of a thinner line there. Bring that back. A little bit of a wisp there. Then I'm going to do is I'm going to get these lines here. I'm going to start up here and just bring those in. Look at that. Just light, bring those to the edge. Then I'm going to go back up here and define this line. So keep going here, close that gap. Keep going up and out. So I'll go back over here, cut the thin line, and bring it over and out. There you go. Give that little wisp on the end there. Let's come back in and do this fin that's on the other side. You notice again on your photo, you'll see lots and lots of little lines here on the fins, but you really don't need that. Sometimes just a few things can actually allude to and give you that illustration. You're illustrating that sort of idea of that shape or that object. Let's here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm kind of putting these little lines in here. Let's out a little bit. Let's down. Now with this back part here, back in here, right into that. Look at that. Let's go ahead. Now it's okay to rotate your paper. I know that I can't make the lines that I want to make on these fins unless I turn this around, and that's perfectly fine to do. So I'm going to go back into here and start here, light and heavy. There we go. Get some of those fins in there. There we go. Now I'm looking at my guy here and I'm pretty much done. There you go. So I have basically done myself the fish. I can go back in, if I digitize this, I'll go ahead and rip out the color, just do the black and white line work. And then I can come back in and I can add more color to this. I can go ahead and add texture and color and shade and shadow on this. All right. But there we are. There's my little fish. Have fun with your fish. I hope you enjoyed your little guy there. And we'll see you on the next drawing.